campaign advisor for Bill Clinton. Gentlemen, welcome.
Sure.
So, Brad, it's so interesting to me. I talked about this with Malcolm a little bit. You know, last week the White House was saying it's a Wisconsin story. It is not a Washington story, and tried to distance itself from what we're seeing. And today, President Obama uses his address to the nation's governors to speak to, you know, protecting public employee unions and not vilifying them. And is he, in effect, injecting himself into this debate?
He absolutely is, and he's doing it intentionally. The President of the United States has to tell us, do you want to be a president of a union, or do you want to be president of the union? He talked to the National Association of Governors like they were union shop stewards being taken to task. The bottom line is the chief executives of the states have budget crises. It's their obligation to deal with it the way they see fit, not how Washington dictates them to behave. And you want to know something? The governors are showing more leadership in their states than the president or the Democrats in Congress, because they're making the tough choices that they must make because they're under an obligation to have, in many cases, balanced budgets.
Simon, what of that? What to those who would say, as Brad suggests, this is a federalist principle? You know, keep your nose out of it. Let the state governors do what they need to do to tighten their belts, and don't weigh in on it. And they believe President Obama is doing so because he's supported politically by the unions. You respond how?
I think what the president said today was very mild. I mean, what he was saying is that in these efforts to bring budgets in balance, it would be a good idea not to vilify and attack public employees who are serving states. I don't think there's anything too sort of crazy in that remark or provocative. And I will say that, Megan, that I think that the big debate that we're having in the country right now is how do we create growth, how do we get the budget deficit under control. And I think what we're seeing is sort of the Republican strategy starting to hit a wall, because right now in Washington, what the Republicans are offering by focusing on cutting spending and reducing the size of government, what we're ending up with is a strategy that will slow down growth and increase the deficits. That's not what the country asked for, so I think that we're in a very early stage of this debate on both sides, and hopefully over the next few months the two parties can come together and find common ground to tackle these common challenges.
What of that, Brad? Because Simon doesn't seem too upset about President Obama saying what he said, nor are many on the left, because one senior Democratic official came out on the record over the weekend, I think it was to the AP, saying Scott Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, has handed us a gift. He took a deflated, fractured party coming out of the 2010 midterms and has given us a unified, energized, and motivated base.
I think they're completely out of touch. They didn't get what the American people were saying in November, but the Republicans did. They're going to stay true to their word. Certainly the 26 Republican governors get it. They've got very tough budget situations. You know what they're doing? They're rolling up their sleeves and they're attacking the root cause of their problems. They're not taking in enough, and they're spending too much. And they're showing light on these union contracts where in many instances their employers, the taxpayers, are paid less in comparable work than union workers, and that's just wrong.
But Simon, President Obama's walking a delicate balance here, isn't he? Because he's got to look like he cares about budgets, and presumably he does care somewhat about budgets, but he also can't throw the unions under the bus, and he has to give them a little shelter, does he not?
Yeah, and I think, look, I think the danger point for the Republican Party in all this is that we've had 10 years of no wage and income growth in the United States. Working people have been down for a long time. And I think if the Republicans look like they're fighting for everyday people and not doing things that will make it more difficult for working people to get ahead, they'll be fine. But there is this impression in a time when wages and incomes are down, wealth is concentrating at the top, that the Republicans are trying to give the American people less, the Democrats are trying to give them more. And I think if that's the impression that settles in over the next few months, I think it's going to be a tough 2 years for the Republican Party.